So we're not quite done yet with Chapter 1. In fact, every chapter in this game, except for a select few which will become very apparent when we get to them, will pretty much always have 2 videos. This is how my series is working here on this game. I kind of want to rope you viewers in and let you kind of enjoy Bayonetta on the carnal and enthusiastic, immersive level that I did when I first played this game and still do every time I sit down with this game. Part of that is that I want you to sort of get wrapped up in the story, wrapped up in the emotions behind it, and not to sound too pretentious, but this game is in a lot of ways a really nice piece of artwork, and I don't want to tarnish that by collecting extras in the middle of action. Oh wait, before we go on to move on with plot, here's a collectible that increases your health, or magic, or onion rings counter. I don't care. The idea being that these extra bits are going to basically follow all collectibles, all extra battles, all extra verses, therefore. That's what they're properly called. Not sure if I made that clear or not. And if you don't want to watch these videos, I'd actually recommend that. Head through the entire game just watching the playlist that is just based on the chapters, rather than this playlist that this particular video is part of, which is the full playlist. The everything in this game playlist, because I do want to show off everything in this game. Such as the moon pearls. Okay, so that was a broken moon pearl that we just got. Every 2 of them that you collect, you can get a magic up. However, you'll also find that coming back to a stage where you first found a moon pearl, you'll now find an arcade bullet. I do believe I'm going to be explaining what those are next part, though, so don't worry too much about those yet if it's not entirely obvious. Anyway, I just wanted to showcase also that as far as that riding the train section goes, it really doesn't matter whether or not you ride the train out. I believe standing on the train makes it go by a bit faster. Now, collectibles aren't the only thing that we're going to find, because after you get to this point and make the little elevator platform thing out of your ancient Umbran technology, heading back the way we came, like all the way back to where we first got the key, you'll find something down here. It's a Alheim. Alheim? Is that how you pronounce it? Alheim portal? And this basically sends us to an area we haven't seen yet. This is the realm of Paradiso. Every one of these Alheim portals sends us to a quick challenge that always takes place in this arena, so get used to the way this place looks. This challenge happens to be to use witch time. This simply means that you cannot do damage onto enemies without first being in witch time. So this is going to be pretty good dodging practice if you are following along and planning on playing the whole game through, as I am, with all the collectibles in mind. The main point here is that you need to dodge in order to enter witch time, as one might expect, but any combo or any kind of consecutive hit chain you're getting, basically you can't keep that going forever. Enemies can't be stun locked, and this basically makes it so that you have to learn how to dodge their attacks in a not so controlled setting anymore. However, torture attacks can totally finish up regardless of how far out of witch time you come. So that should never be too much of a problem. However, enemies with health bars, you're going to notice, are going to start cropping up a bit more. Those are going to be a bit harder to deal with. We'll see that more in Force in a little bit. But, yeah, definitely, it throws you for a loop whenever a combo doesn't pull through properly. So you always want to just keep up your timing on the dodge and make sure you do always dodge at the exact last moment. And try not to get hit like I did. But yeah, definitely, you'll find the angelic arms to be very useful here. They're one-shotting the smaller guys. I mean, if that's not proof enough. Now, you'll often find that these Alheim portals are going to become a lot easier when you come back to them later on and have different weapons, different skills, different accessories equipped. And yes, I strongly recommend doing that. However, I'm pacing my Let's Play, so we're going to see everything basically as soon as we have access to it. At least that's what I'm planning on doing. for the most part. Bottom line, you'll notice also that there's a time limit for this, and that just adds a little bit more to the challenge here. So now not only are we managing, as you can see, a limited number of hit points rather than a limited amount of health, but we're also now managing simultaneously beating these enemies under the condition without getting hit too many times, and also within a time limit that is getting dangerously low. I am editing out all my failed attempts. Not to say I failed this one in particular. No, what gave you that idea? But definitely later on there's going to be some that are going to take me easily 10, 12 tries sometimes. I don't expect updates on how many tries each one took me, but that was cutting it a bit closer than I wanted to. Either way, we get the other half of the broken moon pearl. Ugh. Anyway, so we collect this. We get two halves put together, and we get a whole moon pearl. This ups our magic by 1 unit. So now you don't have to have a full magic bar in order to activate Witch Time, and you'll start finding that the more and more magic you have, the less of an issue managing your magic becomes, because getting hit by an attack doesn't drain all your magic, it just drains basically 1 bar of it. So by the time we have 2-3 rows of magic to borrow from, magic is going to be something you're going to have to stock up, not necessarily save and cling to desperately. But anyway, after any Alheim portal, you can just head right back into where you were last. There is also up here a broken witch heart. Collect 4 of those, and it'll up your health. So, just exploring around a bit more, we'll find that there is another broken witch heart here. So that's 2 out of 4. Good. Okay, we're halfway there. Another arcade bullet over here if you're curious. It's also worth noting that while not technically a means of getting an extra collectible, I missed 2 verses originally when running through this stage, as I'm sure you noticed, one of which was the Alheim portal. So the other one, what could be the other one? Well, at certain points in certain stages, you're going to find that not only are there multiple Alheim portals in later stages to go and find, with therefore multiple verses left to catch up on, you'll also find that sometimes backtracking and heading back to previous areas now that you've cleared them of enemies and obstacles, triggering certain events, much like breaking the bridge earlier, triggered the Alheim portal, clearing the previous verse we were just in suddenly activates this, which is a completely unique battle to this area, only accessible if you are backtracking. A lot of times you'll find that if you're about to hit a point of no return, I would strongly recommend, if you are going for 100% in this game, or at least going for the collectibles and extras and whatever else you want, that you would always be willing to backtrack before you pass a point of no return. How do you know what those are? Either A, you've watched my LP now, or B, you've played the stage before. I'm sorry, there's no better way than that. In a lot of ways, this is where Bayonetta really gets its strong sense of replayability from. You know, if the difficulty select and all the collectibles wasn't enough, there's also these entirely extraneous and optional verses where you can just run through, and these are, you'll find a lot of the time, a bit harder and a bit more strenuous than what we've already been pitted up against. Like, these are all the same enemies that we were fighting in the battle before Beloved showed up. However, here you'll also find that it's a bit more frantic. There are no decorations, so no easy witch time, no easy combo ups. The only thing that you're running off of here are the affinity and applaud. And there's also multiple applaud. That's another big key factor here. Of course, this also means more opportunities to get pretty decent weapons, so really that's all a matter of management and strategy and everything else that you get to know as you get to know this game better. I honestly don't expect anyone to be as good at the game as I am, of course. But when you first start out with this game, it does have a fairly steep learning curve, but luckily there is no penalty for dying, there is no consequence for any, no real consequence anyway, long-lasting, whatever you want to call it, for mistakes. So you can pretty much screw up to your heart's content in this game, and you don't have to worry. That's just another strength of Bayonetta as a whole to me, and another reason why it solidifies itself as far as this whole replayability thing goes. We can find a third broken witch heart up in the rafters in this room. Also, if it's not apparent enough already, we're showing the extras in the order that you'll come across them in the stage. At least for the most part. You'll see what I mean in a bit. However, when fighting Dragon Man here, whose name I will not disclose yet if you haven't played the game before, apparently somebody in the programming thought it'd be a good idea to allow you to just gun him down here, you know, before any more powerful attacks or physical interruptions come about, before you have to watch any cinematics of some gruesome witches getting eaten. Yeah. You can just sit here, dodge the fireballs, enter witch time, and get a pretty decent combo bonus, honestly, just from gunning these guys down, just using the gun button, which is really quite... I'm not sure. I like the option. This is much faster. This gives you a much better score, usually, as long as you're good at dodging fireballs, at least. And I'm thoroughly impressed that they actually left this option open in a game like this. Most of the time, you'll find in spectacle fighters, sections like this are pitifully scripted so that you can whittle down an enemy's health bar to a certain extent with your guns, but oh, you have to finish them off in the arena they want you to. Not the case here. However, it's not necessarily too non-linear or whatever the word is for, because as you can see, Bayonetta is standing here. Anyway, the other thing I'd like to show off, starting with the prologue actually, is dying in this game. If you get beat up so much that you end up completely dying, we're told that the witch hunts are over. And you can continue at any time by pressing yes. Now, the witch hunts are over. Weren't the witch hunts finished 500 years ago? It seems so strange that they would say that the witch hunts end when Bayonetta is defeated. Foreshadowing, question mark? Anyway, I just wanted to sort of show what this screen is and the weight that this might hold. If you say no, you're booted back to the chapter select screen with absolutely no negative consequence. However, your score is massively reduced. Your medal reward, your bonus halos, all that, are massively reduced if you do continue after a death. Items also count as crutches that will be counted against you in that case. But checkpoints are frequent, so if you're just playing through the game to play through the game, death shouldn't ever really be too much of a worry or consequence for you. Just making it through the challenges at hand are really the important part. Anyway, as for this plane section, I totally forgot to mention this in the first part. But yeah, we got a time limit here. This plane's about to crash into a building. You can watch as Jean just pretty much ignores Bayonetta entirely and does her job for her. She's not building up our magic gauge though, so that was entirely us. But it is worth noting that if you're going for strategy, Jean will serve to stun lock certain enemies, or at least get them in a position to be stunned enough that you can step in and finish them off. Nothing too major, nothing too detailed to worry about here, just it is more strategy to this game, and you can even see Jean using a couple techniques that we might be able to use in the future, or at least might be willing to try if you're up for some interesting button combinations. However, with 2.5 seconds left on the clock, we can actually see that the visuals here are still continuing to be impressive, I gotta say. I love the animation on this plane as it rocks around at this apparently Mach speed crash. It's just really nice visuals, and if it weren't for the fact that there is a pressing time limit, I would recommend you all just stand here and just stop and smell the roses, appreciate this visual experience. Also, this song, it's got a taste of Fly Me to the Moon in it, and it's only really ever heard for this long at this point. Most of the time this song is supposed to be your panic sound, so don't expect to hear this one too much. I'm not sure how the seconds should tick down with this time. I somehow doubt it's realistically implemented, but here we go, crashing now. And that is a game over. So, if you choose to not continue, this happens. You know, just to make you feel like more of an ass. Anyway, now it's time to look at some other things. If you're behind Beloved, Beloved can grab you, will try to crush you, and will do constant damage. However, you can get out of it by wiggling the control stick. If you don't, this is considered a failed quicktime reaction event, and after you're crushed for a bit, breaks your spine. Ow. Fudge. So yeah, no, definitely don't want to get grabbed by Beloved, although it is a nice pot shot. The important thing is not to fail that quicktime event. On the subject of quicktime events, though, not all quicktime events in this game are do or die. I really appreciate that about this game, is that there are, for example here, you could press nothing, and the only thing you get is just less halos as a reward, and a much less impressive visual. You can really get immersed by mashing the X button there, or you can just watch and, okay, sure. It is also worth noting that when fighting against Fire Dragon Guy, I made a big deal about this attack. Yeah, that was it. Anyway, speaking of other failed events or whatever, the crashing into this wall here, I mentioned partially that he's trying to destroy the bridge. Now, if you're curious, you are on a sort of a set time limit here. The dramatic camera angles are supposed to suggest a passage of time. You can count this as pass 4. And you need to do a certain amount of damage to this guy, or after the 6th pass, I believe, he completely destroys the bridge, and it is game over. Luckily, that's not too demanding. I honestly didn't even know this was a thing until I started hunting for those. This, however, I kinda knew. If you don't jump within the first 2 seconds, you're dead. I've heard complaints about that, and they're totally accurate complaints. That's one of the few flaws in this game that I'll be willing to concede wholeheartedly, is that there are a couple times where the quicktime event is just a bit too demanding for what you'd expect. But anyway, here we go. Fighting against this Beloved here, it's suggested by that little camera pan that he is indeed destroying the platform, and you can see the cracks appearing the more he thrashes about and the more he moves about, and we're led to believe that there's a very tense setup here as the ground that you're standing on continues to collapse and crash the longer it takes. Now, in the main part, the story part of this chapter, I made sure to deal with him relatively quickly so that you wouldn't have to see this entire path crumbling, or more accurately, because it really isn't that hard to finish him off that fast. I mean, I brought him within an inch of his life only using guns, and we're still sitting here waiting for this attack to do its thing. But it is worth noting that this attack is apparently doing consistent and constant damage to this platform that we're standing on. I'm not sure if it's programmed as a health bar, or if it's just timed based on how many thrashes he's able to complete. It's honestly a bit fuzzy, but it's nothing really to work up about, because odds are the only time you're ever going to run into a problem here is on the higher difficulties, which we're not even gonna get to until a much later part as far as discussion goes. However, you can see that he's thrashing around a bit. I do like the how the animations don't necessarily feel reused, even though they kind of are. I don't believe this platform is pressure sensitive based on location either, so he'll just keep slamming at you, sliding off, and then eventually collapses. Anyway, yeah, same thing. No chewing with Gamora here. That's really the only difference, is that Gamora just doesn't chew on the Beloveds. There are some other more noticeable differences with other summons to take down other enemies in other parts of the game. And I'll be sure to cover those when we get to them, no worries. But just keep in mind that not pressing X doesn't mean you fail. Now, just to finish up, there's a lot of flavor text in this game, where you get to just read up on a lot of interesting things that a lot of people either don't really know about, or more importantly, don't care about. Like, for example, the security guards do have impressive weapon supplies. That'd be kind of weird for an ancient city like this to have that, right? But anyway, lots of little details like this. I made a point to read all the ones that were applicable to the immediate situation, stuff that seemed appropriate, I guess. But there is so much more flavor text if you hunt around for it. Odds are I probably missed something. If you want to hunt them down yourself, by all means, feel free to go ahead. There just is a lot of these little bits here, so just go ahead and pause the video and just watch or read through them if you're interested at all. It is very world building without being intrusive. Especially since that's the kind of thing you wouldn't even notice unless there was a way to examine it, or whatever. But honestly, there's not really much more I can say about this chapter. It was a good start to the game, I think. Fairly solid. This courtyard area, this probably won't be the last time we're going to see it, because this game does sort of suffer from reusing assets occasionally. But after these signs are just pretty much covered, there's all the ones in just that courtyard. The final one is after we fight Dragonhead Man. Pans over there, foreshadowing the boss, and that's it. It's everything from Chapter 1. Join me next time when we cover Chapter 2, and get to see what lies beyond that beloved fight.